Hello and welcome to the Mediate Podcast 2004, where I was the one who got to do the thing that we do. In this episode, it's one of those double whams because honestly, in 2004, like no good games came out.
Fuck's sake.
And so I picked two films. And this was an interesting episode because I am comparing the 3D animation of Pixar. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Good, because I didn't know, to Studio Ghibli's animation in the two films, The Incredibles and Howl's Moving Castle, which we have just finished watching in a double bill. And we are hot off the press, ready to give you our opinions. Ready as we'll ever be, in fact. So, which one should we start off with?
Well, I think since we're so ready to go into those two films, we should first do the honourable mentions.
Oh, yeah, it's
Also
TV
thing.
round.
Yeah. Oh, man.
No, I'm like you. I always forget to introduce the fact that everyone's got a rumor. So I'm like, let's just dive right in. Yeah, that's always what I want to do. So,
Speaking, I mean, Tony, you're slagging off the games. Are you telling me that Halo 2, which came out in 2004, isn't deserving of a slot? I mean, so far in this podcast, we picked pretty much every Halo game as an honourable mention.
I've broken the trend.
There's only one more after this, Tony. I mean, come on. It's getting pretty tight now.
It is because I did not play Halo 2 because I was like, actually no, did I play Halo 2? I don't even fucking know. But I was like 4 years old when it came out, so I don't really think I was at the environment, and I haven't ever gone back to the multiplayer, and it's like 2/3 of a campaign. So
yeah, but the campaign is so good. Like going back to it, especially with the remaster.
yeah,
I mean, some of
that
those
makes the Master Chief Collection better.
Some of those missions, I mean, like just the ones in the city. First of all, the shock twist that you can suddenly play as the bad guys. You know, like
So that's the one where they like have the bad guy you play as.
Yeah.
The
The
Arbiter.
Is that the one again with the tentacle monster that just goes right?
Oh,
you both
that
need
is
to be in the same
that
room.
is incredible though. When like at the like. They've hit rock bottom in the narrative, and like this huge fucking like thing just picks up the main characters and goes like sort it out, and then he teleports him exactly where he needs to be for plot reasons. It's incredible.
It's great. It's not as good as Gravemind in Halo 3, who slows the game and puts a black filter over it and says like weird poetry things.
Some people take this like seriously.
I
I mean, I think you do too. I just can't.
do.
It's so.
I love the Master Chief.
It's so funny.
He's
though.
my favourite Halo.
It's so fucking fun. And it just, oh man, I mean, like Halo 2. I won't go into it too much, but like the way they were just like, you know what would make Halo better? 2 of everything. You know, you can suddenly dual wield weapons, and the way that just changes, you know, how you kind of interact with combat situations. You know, no longer do you have to worry about ammo because you can kind of just pick anything up and then work it with anything. You realise that suddenly, like, oh, I could use the needler to break their shields, and I can use like a gun which doesn't require as much ammo, like the plasma pistol, to finish them off. And suddenly, it's kind of you're using all these new combinations, and the things
it up.
it did for multiplayer as well. It's good. I mean,
Yeah.
I hope we get to talk about Halo one day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might have been Halo 2 that probably launched
Xbox
Live
Yeah.
as like a platform.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, those were the glory days. If only Halo could somehow reach back and try and relive them in some way. But I guess we'll never know.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Which is something of a key theme in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
that's a great transition. You were waiting to say that, weren't you?
Ethan, I've learned from the films of 2017. Okay.
Right, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So this is a film from, obviously 2004. It stars Jim Carrey as this man who meets Kate Winslet on a train, and they start up a relationship, and it looks really optimistic, and you're quite happy for them. And pretty much straight afterwards, it jumps quite far in time, and they're broken up. And when Jim Carrey goes to see Kate Winslet one more time, she's completely forgotten about him. She can't remember who he is. She doesn't remember his name or anything like that. And he doesn't know what's happened. And he finds out that she's gone and got her every memory that she had of Jim Carrey erased. and in order to be like her, he does the same thing because he can't live knowing that Kate Winslet has done this and that he had such an important impact on her life, on his life. And it's a really good film. There are a lot of fantastic dreamlike sequences because basically most of the film is spent going inside Jim Carrey's mind, because there are people who actually go through with the procedure, through with the erasing, and they're really, really creatively well done. The transitions between each dream are just absolutely fantastic. And it slightly annoys me a little bit, because while I think Jim Carrey is a really great physical comedy actor, I mean, it's something he does really, really well in films like The Mask and Me, Myself and Irene. This and The Truman Show are two films that prove to me that he can do drama really, really well. And it's such a small aspect of his career. I wish that he'd spent more time doing dramas, because I know he can do them really, really well, and that's kind of always been a bit of a shame. But yeah, it's a really good film. Go check it out.
God, 2004 is such a good year.
Mm.
There's so many fucking bangers.
Been meaning to watch that film for quite a while.
Yeah, you'd quite like it.
Yeah.
It's your sort of film, definitely.
yeah.
It's really good.
Another film that is my sort of film.
And it's also my sort of film.
is Shaun of the Dead.
Yes.
Which I think is probably the best thing that deals with zombies. But I haven't watched The Walking Dead, so I probably can't judge.
I'm a huge fan of that show.
But it's the best thing that deals with zombies.
It definitely came out at a great time. With that, there was like a Dawn of the Dead reboot at a similar time, and then the 28 Days had just come out, and I think 28 Weeks was probably like close to coming out. So this spoof is just so well timed, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's been a while since I've watched it, so I can't fully remember, apart from the fact that it's hilarious and good and there are some great scenes. I mean, it's part of the collection of, well, you've got Shaun of the Dead, you've got Hot Fuzz, and then you've got, what is it?
The World's End.
The World's End,
The Cornetto trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good. Obviously, the first feature film by Edgar Wright, unless you count that, like one that he made that doesn't really count. So yeah, and for a first film, it's pretty well accomplished. It's like I'm always a fan of like a director's first film, because I always feel like limitations kind of breed creativity. So when the director's trying to kind of force out their first film, they often reveal a lot about themselves.
Is Scott Pilgrim that older?
Scott Pilgrim came out ages after, didn't it?
Really?
Scott Pilgrim came.
That was his first one. Well, I know Spaced was something that he was on before everything.
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then Scott Pilgrim, The World's End, and Baby Driver, and then Ant-Man dropped in the middle.
He's not coming back for The Wasp, is he?
Oh god, I hope not.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. And Tony, obviously it's your episode. You got to pick two things. What was the third? What missed out?
I know. I said games were bad this year for a joke, but now I picked a visual novel for my honourable mention. I have to backtrack what I did in 2016 of calling visual novels games for reasons. I picked the Fate Stay Night visual novel, which came out in 2004. I play it on PC because the only steps to do it legally, there are two steps. One is learn Japanese, the other is buy a PS Vita. Honestly, both of those are incredibly hard, so I play it on PC, like, translated. But it's sort of my go-to game because it's on my like really shit laptop that I play whenever the internet is down, and so it's also a massive visual novel. So I'm like not finished with it. I've done like 1/3 of it, and the way the story is structured, it's got the sort of branching storylines based on dialogue options that you might be familiar with if you played other visual novels, and it's like, I think I picked it because it is the quintessential confusing cinematic universe. It's so complicated to explain it, and I don't even know if I've ever done it on camera, I want to say, on audio description, on tape, on the wire. But it's spawned lots of recurring memes with Ethan. For some reason, I've shown him like the shittiest show in the series of Fate Apocrypha, which is somehow related to this, even though the characters, setting and setup are all completely different.
Is it better than Fate Apocrypha?
Or the visual novel? Yeah. But that's like a low floor, Ethan. Visual novel's alright. It suffers from the same problem pretty much every visual novel has of being
I don't mind Fate Apocrypha.
Massively like drawn out. Because it shows everyday, like, year 2 writing style of, like, and then the main character woke up, and then they had breakfast, and, like, 4 days later the plot actually happens. It's kind of worth it, because you get to see, like, the conceit of the show is that it's this Grail War, where there's a holy grail that can grant a wish to the winner of this war, and there are 7 people in the war. They're called the Masters, and they each summon a servant who is like someone from history. So like they summon Berserker,
Shakespeare.
They summon Shakespeare in Fate Apocrypha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's
I think King Arthur's in there as well.
King Arthur's in there as well. There's like the Knights of the Round Table, and they all get thrown in there. It's basically Super Smash Brothers, but for famous history people. And some of them get turned into cute anime girls because obviously, why wouldn't you?
Because all the people they pick are men.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I'm trying to think and the only one I'm trying to think of examples that like actually women, early history, but then all of the examples are like this famous witch, this famous seducer of men. It's like, yeah, I kind of see why they flip the gender to self-fucking figures, obviously. But yeah, it's interesting.
Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc is in Fate Apocrypha.
100% is, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a flawed show.
Well, I mean, Fate Apocrypha is. It has 2 good
Oh, you
shows.
say this visual novel's perfect then?
No. It has 2 good shows that have been adapted from parts of this visual novel.
Oh, so did this spawn the shows?
Yeah, this
Nice.
is the progenitor.
So
this is the seed.
So it's like the Steins Gate kind
Yeah. Except Steins Gate has 1 show, a film, and a prequel series airing last season-ish, right?
It's not a prequel thing. So
kind of
time travel confuses me.
Yes, it spins off from the main.
Okay.
It's like what if one episode had
Yeah.
a different outcome?
yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, the annoying thing is you can't say what the spin-off series is without spoiling the end of the first one.
Then we won't.
But it's what if that ending didn't happen?
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's also I think I don't know definitively, but I think video game, then the TV series, then there was a film based after the TV series, then a game was made of the what if the ending didn't happen, and then another TV series was made of the video game of what if the ending didn't happen.
This one goes
It's so confusing.
game.
Trying to follow the Incredibles cinematic universe. I mean, is Rise of the Underminer canon now?
This one goes from game to shit TV series, which was the original Fate Stay Night anime, which talk about manga, fucking spin-offs, more TV shows. That's good. And yeah, so the 2 good ones are Unlimited Blade Works and Fate Zero. Fate Zero is the prequel, and you might want to keep that in mind for other spin-off shows. Just saying, laying the seeds down. Yeah.
Speaking of TV,
Tenuous.
They're getting a little less smooth now, Harry.
I mean, you two haven't witnessed. Ethan's seen this firsthand. He's seen some of the links. he's having a PTSD
And my
flashback.
TV series is Zelda. See the no. Okay. So my TV roundup is Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
This is the best episode we've done.
Yeah, I'd consider this one of the best comedies ever, just because it's so bad. I mean, purposefully bad. Okay, so it was made, written, directed, all the things by Rich Diowaddy and Matthew Holness. Matthew Holness, from what I can tell on IMDb, did this, and that was basically it.
Yeah.
And then Diowaddy went on to have.
I really love how
brilliant
he
career.
doesn't do anything else, because I can just when I see that cat, I just see he's
Yeah.
Garth Marenghi,
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's about a really terrible horror writer who somehow managed to get a show made about managed to write a show, and then it's aired as if it was never released on time, and now with the biggest drought in TV history, it's now being brought back and put on your TV screens, and so it's brilliantly terrible episodes, and then you've also got interviews with the cast interspersed, and it's a sort of running commentary of a really terrible show they made, and it just has some of the best lines. And every time I go and sort of reread through the quotes on IMDb, I just end up watching it again.
Yeah, especially the first episode, which is so good. I mean, it's such a weird thing to describe. It's a bad show from the 80s set in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just bizarre, and some of the format of it, having it cut between the show and then the kind of documentary style, comes up with some great jokes.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really, really good.
When did this first air, Johnny?
Well, I think it was the 80s.
It's okay, you don't have to laugh. I know it's very, very old now.
No,
I'll
they
keep
did.
doing
They
it.
did have a brief. They did have a brief run in Peru or whatever it is.
In
they say.
Peru, sorry.
It's a joke at the beginning of the thing. So now, for the first time on British televisions, it had a brief run in Peru. Yeah.
Oh, right, I see.
It's only 6 episodes. No more got made because it was poorly received when it was initially released. But it's now a cult favourite, and they want a sequel, but it's not happening.
And like every the great thing about anything, if you live in the UK, the Channel 4 have ever made, it's just available online. Like, you can just watch it for free. It's great.
Mm-hmm. And another interesting fact is everyone involved in this was involved with the Mighty Boosh, apart from Matthew Holness. Even though he was in the stage version of the Mighty Boosh, he didn't make it to the TV version.
Well, Richard Ayoade and Noel Fielding are good friends, aren't they?
Ayoade's great in it. Alice Lowe. There's
Matt
Berry.
Berry.
It's just
Matt Berry.
It's Matt Berry's voice alone.
Yeah,
It's so good.
Sanchez. Damn things come alive in my hand.
Did you ever finish?
Wouldn't
Did you ever
he
finish
work?
Toast of London at some point?
No,
I do like Toast of London, even though it's just like a massive vehicle for him. I mean, that's enough to carry it.
Or Mad Men, that show.
I think it's not quite as good as BoJack from the bits I've watched, and it's not my favourite Matt Berry bits, so it's not captivated me.
But what did captivate you was Gotham Dog Place.
Definitely.
Bring it said
Full circle.
Howl's Moving Castle.
I can't just keep moving it on, Tony. I've got to open up the floor to other people, you know? I'm training you.
I work alone.
I now want to move on to the Incredible. Fine, we'll do Howl's Moving Castle.
And with that incredible transition, Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
So Howl's Moving Castle is a Japanese animation by Studio Ghibli that came out in 2004, based on the 1982 book
82, yeah.
of the same name. It was directed and
It's
written
part of a
by
trilogy, though, those books.
Miyazaki. I don't know what his first name is.
Hayao.
Yeah.
Hayao.
Hayao Miyazaki. And
we all pronounce that differently.
Yeah, we do. It's like a Boshi, just don't read into it that much.
I always want to say Miyazaki like the Dark Souls guy, but alright. So Tony, talk to us about Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh, I just saw it, and it has the same thing that all Studio Ghibli films have. They're good. Again, so Ponyo is our comparison to this, because I felt...
I don't want to compare them, because this is so much better.
Alright, but I didn't... If Ponyo had been better received, I wouldn't have picked this, but I think that I can't have an opportunity to pick films in a game show-like podcast format and not pick a Studio Ghibli film. And I picked Ponyo, and I was like, no, I think everyone should just love Studio Ghibli because they're just great most of the time, apart from Tale of Princess Kaguya. But that's the other guy. That's Isao Takahata, who does Grave of the Fireflies, which you have seen.
That's a Tucker.
That's my favourite one. That's my favourite Ghibli film.
Well,
Or is
but
it?
yeah. But
Come on,
but this
Aaron, we
is,
all know it is.
Yeah.
Hayao Miyazaki doing what... I hate that I fucking butcher the name. Doing what he does best and telling a incredibly engaging adventure, almost fantasy-like, I want to say magical kind of theme to a story set in a wonderful, vibrant world. That pretty much describes all of his films. But in this one, the setting is... That's a great idea for a film. And this one sort of is like a more steampunk, sort of almost like Victorian London style of setting, where it's more cities are built up and having this more like clockwork and like machinery sort of set elements to it, for instance.
It's interesting that you say that, because it reminds me a bit more of something Central European with some of the flags that they have. They look very kind of...
Yeah.
And maybe
London's the
Andorran.
only city I've ever been to.
Also the accents, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Christian Bell. Welsh. Bring it back. So yeah, the setting is incredibly well thought out, and of course the biggest star of the show is in fact the moving castle itself, owned by Howl.
It's such a bad joke.
Thanks. And the story follows the main girl, Sophie, who works at a hat shop, and one day she just gets harassed by some ruffian soldiers and gets saved by this wizard who just comes down, says, "I'm the main fucking guy," and like, but unfortunately, Howl is caught in this lovers debacle with the Witch of the Waste. Was it West?
Witch of the Waste. Yeah.
Is Witch of the West Legend of Oz?
Wizard of Oz.
Fuck!
Did you say Legend of Oz?
I did say Legend of Oz.
It's not like a bad prequel, is it?
No, that's Oz the Great and Powerful, or whatever it's called.
It's the last film Sam Raimi made.
Oh, I'm glad.
And so they get assailed by that, and that's the sort of the thing that drives the film, is the fact that evil witch curses the main character with the worst curse an anime character could ever get, being ugly.
But it was the best curse for me as an audience member. I mean, I felt at that point that's when the film's just like, oh, this is good. You know?
Yeah, because I think that is the driving theme of this film, because all of Hayao Miyazaki's films have meaning,
like Ponyo,
and depth.
It's got depth, all right.
It's got a deep water hand.
Exactly, that's about it.
And this one is about youth and old age, and as I saw it written somewhere as I was frantically researching this film before we started recording, it's about the burden that youth carries and the fact that you have your whole life ahead of you, and that carries like almost a weight to it. And it shows both sides of the main character becoming old. You know, every time she sits up, there's this incredible sound design of her fucking back pulling like a fucking crack, like Incredibles. It's my back. But it also shows like the peacefulness of growing old and like coming to accept that. There's a great line where she's just out and looking at the incredible hand-drawn scenery. It looks good. I emphasise that it really looks good.
Yeah, we can see it in front of us.
As I show you in this audio format, and it's aged incredibly well, like some things.
Are people watching this and listening to it?
You're watching it right now.
We're living it.
This is an experience, and Sophie just sits down and says, "I've never been this calm," and I think that's something that Hayao Miyazaki has mastered, is wanting to convey an emotion, and then just doing it in great sound design and great animation and visuals. And then the plot ramps up. It's about the main guy, Howl, and he's like cursed or some shit, and he has to get his heart back. But it's this sort of... I don't want to just describe the plot as it happens, because that'll be shit. So and I think we should just go into talking more about it, like in a broader sense. What did you feel, Jono? How does this make you feel?
Well, more I was going to say that I think what it does really well is the war in the background, and it's staying in the background. I mean, it's sort of... really, it kind of... well... yeah, that's
it's part of the setting, I'd say, the war.
Yeah. Which after watching most of what's it called? The very pretty anime where there was a war in it. So Violet Evergarden.
Oh yeah.
After watching that had a more beautiful world, but had much less feeling like it was going on. Whereas this felt like there was a proper world there behind it all. So that was very nice to have.
Hayao gets out some incredible anti-war statements which filter through this film. Just the incredible line of Howl saying, like, they see a battleship in the sky, and Sophie asks, whose side is it? And Howl says, what difference does it make?
I feel like visually, like there's maybe a subtle, but like at times it's quite hard to follow where you are and like which side of the war you're following. And it's only through like very kind of just like suddenly like all these leaflets will be dropped and they go, oh no, it's propaganda. And then suddenly you'll be in another location which is just as beautiful, and the people that look exactly the same, but suddenly like they'll be dishing out the same leaflets to their own people. Yeah. And you realise that like it kind of the facelessness of it all kind of highlights how stupid it is, and the fact that it doesn't ram down your throat the reason the war's going on. It's so subtle you can miss it. It's
because
really
they they keep emphasizing that this war is pointless, and so they don't even bother to go in to explain it. And so at the end, when it's the classic "and now all our problems are solved" sort of style of ending,
very quickly.
I mean, that's great though. It's like the film is done. Let's go
does
on.
that as well. Like last 2 minutes.
I think Ponyo had it. You know, the world was going to end. What? It's not ending anymore.
No, I like the other two more than that.
Yeah, but I think this one does it pretty well when that one sort of recurring character of this scarecrow finally found out what his deal is, you know? The idea of the curse being broken. And this has a very, like, it has some of the same... I'm going to keep comparing it to Ponyo, in fact, but I should be comparing Ponyo to this. Fucking time, man. It's really confusing. Ponyo follows this. It almost has like treating magic as this resource that is spent, and you can almost feel it like as characters cast spells and do crazy shit. You can feel it having a toll on it, and like them only having a specific amount that they can impact the world, which helps because you don't want magic to feel like an ultimate. I can just fly in space and go into a fucking out of a blast zone thing.
They definitely like the magic in this is better than Ponyo, because they
well,
do very well to set up like early on. There's witches and wizards and
yeah, I think it's more a part of the world, while Ponyo would try to be a bit more like childlike about it. And this is one of the films where it's not Princess Mononoke levels, but it's a bit less aimed at a super young audience.
It definitely falls in the middle of those.
Yeah,
the two Miyazaki films I've seen. Ethan, Khan, you'd seen this film before, man.
Yeah,
I
I've
hadn't.
seen this film quite a few times, in fact. I really, really, really like this film. Although I think this is going to be one of those podcasts where I won't really have much to say, because I think, especially when we come on to The Incredibles, you'll pretty much have covered everything that I really like about it. But, so with Howl's Moving Castle, something that I really, really think is great is the world building of it. I think, unlike Red Faction Gorilla, which just shows Mars, but in different shades of ugly colours, which isn't really well built.
Because we lost the podcast, like very slowly we're going to build it up by just making all the points we made in that one.
It's just that I can't escape this in real life as well. It's not just the podcast now, it's just
life is a podcast,
everywhere.
So Miyazaki shows this really complex and incredible world, and he does it in a way that doesn't feel arrogant or like he's, going, oh, look at all my genius, because I don't think he kind of stresses just how great the world is. He just lets it be the backdrop, and you kind of watch it as the story goes on. And especially with all the magic as well, the writing doesn't say, oh, we're going to tell you what this is before it happens. It kind of just lets it happen, which is really, really quite nice. So you kind of just experience it by surprise.
Yeah, a good way of just showing around the world being the magic door that opens anywhere. Well, say anywhere.
So
there's some brilliant magic in this film,
and the ships as well that they fly on at some point.
Yeah. As you already said, I think the sequences during the war-torn areas are really, really fantastically well done. I love the part where Howl just flies into the sky while he's been chased by these creatures. Yeah. And there's you can see the blue sky above all of the grey cloud, and it just shuts as he passes through it. Yeah. It's just all really, really cool.
It's what the black door leads to on this magical door opening.
That's exactly right. And I also really like the sequence when they go and visit Madame Solomon. Yeah. And when she creates this kind of holographic wave.
The music is so good at that.
Music is awesome, and these little kind of stick men start dancing around them, and it's really, really great, and they just fly out of it and go away. I think the voice casting is really, really great. Really great.
Yeah, we watched it done.
Yeah,
just to point it out. Christian Bale was great.
Yeah, just if you've got any sort of vein.
Serious, Billy Crystal.
That character was written for Billy Crystal, I felt, because it's just him. But if you've got any sort of vain, kind of egotistical character, then Christian Bale will fill that role very well. It's what he does.
We need to talk about the incredible line of, it's not worth being alive if I can't be beautiful.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what that feels like? That feels like me laughing with the film and not at it. Yeah. it realizes that that's like a genuine flaw in a human being, and I
Yeah, and that's very well typed.
Yeah.
I don't know if Christian Bale's actually that egotistical.
No, I'm sure.
I don't even know if he actually
I-
has a personality.
No,
He adapts so well.
You know what? I think Christian Bale is in real life is a completely blank canvas, and that's why he's able to just get into his role
if you
so
were to
well.
just meet him,
Equilibrium
he
is
would
just a
mirror
documentary.
everything about you.
Yeah. Also, the Witch of the Waste is voiced by an actress called Lauren Bacall, I think, and she was like a really classic Hollywood actress from the 40s and 50s. I think she was married to Humphrey Bogart at some point as well.
That's very fitting to have someone like past their time voice a character like
yeah.
Witch of the Waste.
Yeah.
He was trying desperately to show the fact that she's ancient.
I don't really want to be quick to like praise the dialogue in that, like though, because like I don't know about how dubs work, but I imagine there's some
it depends.
localization and there's
Yeah.
some like tweaks to the.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's as good because I feel like the script's very strong for this, mainly because it's based on a book, and not original. So Miyazaki's like, all right, I'll do a little bit of telling the audience what's going on. Don't make it all visual this time.
There's definitely a scale on how good your localizations can be. There's the classic Pokemon thing of having Brock while eating like a rice ball saying, "Oh my god, I love these jelly donuts," and this localization is a lot better than that. Which
I also
is good.
think that the backstory of Howl is not overdone in the slightest. It's quite it's short, but it isn't so short. It's just long enough for you to be intrigued for most of the film to find out what Howl's actual deal is, and you find out how Calcifer came about, and it's really great. Again, it's a sequence where Sophie's trying to catch up with him and get to him, and then she knows how to heal him by the end of the film. It's great. Also, at the same time, I don't think you actually had really big of a problem with this, but I thought that the ending. I'm kind of annoyed when Miyazaki's such a nice guy, right? I mean, he doesn't like villains in his films. So if he has one, they've got to become a nice guy for the end of the film. That's just how it is. Madame Solomon, the Witch of the Waste,
even if
they all just become good
isn't
people.
a villain.
No, exactly, she isn't.
Yeah, I feel like my problems with him are definitely how he doesn't like conventional storytelling. So he doesn't normally have villains. Plot is always down, and that kind of, for me, like, I mean, I'm not critiquing him for not doing it because that's what makes his film so interesting. But that's probably why they don't resonate for me as much as they resonate for you. Although this is probably my favourite Miyazaki film that I've seen.
Oh, nice, good.
I think the way he does it is, I don't know. I feel like some scenes were just so like visual that they were almost like open to interpretation in some way. Like when just the Witch of the Wastes goes into that room and all the lights come on, and you're like, something bad's happening. It's up to you. You know, and it comes back later.
They just show the outcome, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah. Yeah, and it's the same when that when Lady Solomon casts the wave. That's probably one of my favourite scenes in the film.
Yeah. Oh, it's great when Hal disguised as the king just comes down into the
Oh,
glass
that's
house.
so
And he's
good.
like, oh yes, and then the real king of Solomon, he's like, oh, that's the best doppelganger you've done of me yet, and just walks off.
What about the low speed chase up the stairs? I mean, come on.
That
That's
is my favourite
funny.
scene, I think.
Yeah.
It's funny.
That's
It's
great.
what it shows as well, because it's...
My favourite was just when she was cleaning, to be honest. I mean,
Oh yeah, the cleaning is so good.
any film with a good cleaning scene just wins me over, man.
See, you talk about how that cleaning stuff. I mean, it's not particularly relevant to the storyline, but it's good character development.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't feel like fodder. Like I'm sorry, but like Redline does, it just has a middle. It just doesn't feel like it should be there. And this is all about making the characters
Oddly
feel
enough,
more there.
that's my favourite. I think my favourite part of the film is like the beginning. I feel like when the whole war and plot stuff actually comes in, it's not as good as kind of like the main character and just spending time with them, you know. And
I love the way
supporting
Hal is
cast.
introduced as well.
Oh, it's
Where
so
when
good.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
that's-
I wouldn't say it was a saving almost, but at the same time it kind of was. Whatever. Anyway, just the fact that he's being followed and he just lifts her up and they just walk through the sky together. Back to that
Because
balcony.
up to that point, it's just a pretty like normal film, and then like
They, they've said if you see in the distance, that's Hal's moving castle. Name drop.
Yeah, becomes his flying castle in the
I know.
film. Yeah.
It also becomes the thing from The Incredibles, doesn't it?
The Omni Droid.
Exactly.
Was that your way of getting us to move on?
No,
then?
not at all.
Really?
We've talked about this for like 5 minutes. Still, more to say. So, how does this rank amongst all the Hayao Miyazaki films? Can we just pronounce it differently every time we
Well, I'd
say
say
it?
Hayo.
Miyazaki.
That's probably wrong.
Let's just get out Google Translate and just play it like through
Yeah.
the voice to speech.
I'm pretty sure. Repeat after me. Hayo. Miyazaki. That's
I'm
his
not
name.
trusting you, Ethan. Iboshi. How does it rank in all the ones you've seen? You've seen more than me.
I have seen more than you. I did. I think I probably grew up watching more Studio Ghibli films than I probably did even Pixar. I remember the first time I saw this film and I was really, really enchanted by it. I think it's awesome. Now, it's difficult to say. I think the best animated film I've ever seen is Grave with the Firefly. I just want to put that out there. I think that's the best one. Any film that can get me to cry is just, I mean, that is a fantastic achievement for me. And it's an animated film as well, which you might think differently, but to me, animated film making me cry just seems really far-fetched, and just that being able to do that is just really impressive. So that's the best one. Howl's Moving Castle, I think, is my personal favourite though, and I think Spirited Away is probably a close second to both the best and my favourite. I think Princess Mononoke is really, really close. Basically, you've got a bunch of Studio Ghibli films which I think are all right, but again, the plot is lacking a little bit. And then you have pretty much every Pixar film above that. And then you have Spirited Away, Grave of the Fireflies, House Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, and Nausicaa, I think, is really great. And all those five are pretty much above most Pixar films. And that's kind of how I
Then
put
above that, you got Boss Baby.
Above that, Ponyo.
Oh my god. Yeah. So that's kind of how I've pretty much always ranked them. I think those 4 or 5 in particular are really, really great. Actually, on a separate note, Nausicaa also has a very similar kind of vehicle design to the airships in this film as well. They do feel like these really kind of monstrous creatures almost. That that reminds me. Do you know what else I love in the film? The part where, in fact, just after he said, "Oh, what difference does it make? It's a war." So I mean, there's bad on both sides, and you just see his hand move across,
Heroes on both sides.
and the drawing just goes flying through the airship, and you see all the different cogs.
Yeah.
And then the cord gets pulled out and
so
stops
good.
the engines. I just love that. It gets me every time.
That is pretty damn great.
What?
Oh, there you go.
No, I was going to say, what do you guys think? Well, I mean, I'm going to assume you will like Studio Ghibli films a lot because otherwise you're just wrong. But what do you think the secret to him making films so consistently at this level is? Like, there's got to be some. He's got to have sold his heart to a demon or something, right?
I mean, he's just good at his job. I'm sure he's made like.
He's just good at his.
I'm sure
job.
he's made worse films. You just haven't heard
I mean,
of.
his career isn't perfect.
Yeah,
No.
but
no.
I mean, he made Ponyo. But yeah, he's just good at what he does.
Are you sure that wasn't his Sino Takahata?
Good double bill with Grave of the Fireflies. That.
Oh my god, that'd be so crazy. What's his secret?
He's always angry.
He's always got the high ground.
Man.
I'm not 100% sure. I think it's a combination of really great storytelling to a point where it almost feels like a fairy tale.
Yeah, that's one of the best parts of it.
And that just kind of resonates with the child in me, and it's also presented in a way that doesn't feel so childish or immature. It feels quite adult, especially in Princess Mononoke. Like, it's pushing a really strong environmental message throughout, and it feels really kind of mature, and I like that. So he handles that really well. Also, I also love the design of all of the characters, and I'm not talking about the actual human character. I'm talking about the creatures, the things that carry the Witch of the Waste around.
The
They're
blob
so
creatures.
brilliantly designed, and the wolves in Princess Mononoke as well, and even the little spirits that have their kind of rattling faces is great as well.
They're the best.
Yeah, so it's a combination of, again, really great drawing. In fact, that's another thing. I have a huge amount of respect for pretty much all anime in one sense more than anything, and I think anyone that puts this amount of time into something, it just must be so proud of it. They must really take pride in
and
their
it shows
work.
like all of these things they feel like epic and timeless in a way like nothing else does because of how well they like tell their story on like pretty much every technical level. Like, I always feel like we didn't talk about the soundtrack in one of these things, or we didn't talk about animation. It's because they're all great.
Yeah.
It's always great at everything. There's only so many ways we
Don't
can
you
say
feel
it.
like, I mean, it probably takes a lot longer and it's a lot less convenient to like make the animation like this, but this will never date. This will never look bad. Whereas something like The Incredibles at times does look a bit ropey.
Yeah,
Because a film like Coco, which just came out this year, which looks incredible, I'm sure in 20 years that won't look incredible.
I mean,
whereas this will always
I don't know.
hold up.
It might plateau off at a certain point where technology can't improve anymore, but animation definitely always holds up better, and I think Incredibles has held up a lot better than
About
I thought it
80%,
was.
I'd say, holds up, and then there's a lot of kind of real ropey stuff, especially environment stuff.
I mean, if you go back to like the first Toy Story movie, that's when you start to see like the textures look a bit shit. But this doesn't look shit.
Also, the early DreamWorks stuff. I mean, Shrek is like when you see him move,
Let's
you
not
want to kill
talk
yourself.
about Shrek in context of this good thing.
Oh man.
Yeah.
In fairness, I probably prefer like the story of Shrek. But I did with this. I prefer the world. I prefer the characters. The things that people definitely like tell me they like about Miyazaki's films, because like I mean, Ponyo didn't do it for me, and Mononoke I think is good, but like everyone says it's the best thing ever made. I mean, I don't particularly think that. This definitely like worked for me better than those two did, and for that reason, I will give it a number. After you guys are giving it a number.
Tony, do you want to go first at the bar?
I wanted to not go first.
Okay, well,
I know what the bar was.
I'll go first then, if you want. I'll wait until Johnny's finished.
I don't.
What is that? All right.
Oh,
No.
it's not really. Anyway,
I couldn't see what you
So,
were saying.
again, to summarise, it's a film that feels like it has a lot of depth. It feels like it's got heart and soul. It feels like it's been made by a person who takes a lot of pride in making something with moving pictures without feeling pretentious or overly egotistical about it, which I really like. So it feels really honest in that respect. Again, all the thing about anime is just all the drawings are always just exceptionally well done. And I've seen this film really quite a lot of times now, and it's got an important place in my childhood. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a really high 9 out of 10.
Nice. Because we always try and do it. Who do you think's going to give it the next highest rating?
Tony. Will, I think.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I watched. I think Princess Mononoke was the first Studio Ghibli film
That's
I
a
saw,
great one to start off.
and I was like, as soon as I saw that monster that is the pig monster covered in tentacles running, and everything had so much attention paid to every single detail, I knew like this guy is clearly on another level. Like people aren't just talking the talk, you know. And like I don't know, like Ethan talks about how pride, and like I honestly, it's like completely admirable how far these films go, you know, at being the way they are, because you look at Howl's Moving Castle for 2 seconds and a dome has fallen off of it, and it falls and it rolls, and everything about the internal shape of that dome that is on screen for 2 seconds has like 2 times fucking 24, so 48 drawings that all make it look like a consistent shape.
Yeah.
That's just one tiny detail. Every other thing has such a strong level.
It's impossible to think that people actually can do this for a living.
Yeah, but it's also the thing of I finished Princess Mononoke and I'm like, that is so good. But I also don't want to give every Studio Ghibli film a 10.
Why not just do it, man?
I could,
It's all right.
I could. If only there was some opportunity to go back and look at our scores. I think
Perhaps next month.
that
no, Harry. I was explicitly told there's no going back and changing.
We'll see.
these, I think all of the things we talk about contribute to just losing yourself in this like fantastical world. And for me, part of the appeal of anime is the fact that that when it's subtitled, it's almost easier to like accept crazier things going on because it just sounds like unfamiliar, and so you accept that, and then you accept the rest of the film. Where even though Christian Bale is incredible as Howl, it's foreshadowing. He caught me monologuing.
We were talking about Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, he's great. The other guys, I don't know. I think it's just sometimes hearing an American accent just reminds me of the real world, and I just don't want that sometimes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that's probably. I mean, I don't have the problem with live action, so I'll probably just get over it one day. So I don't know. Here's what I'm gonna do. I think I'll set the bar low, and I'll rewatch it in Japanese.
0.
0. No. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like This one didn't have the sort of gravitas that Princess Mononoke had, but it also wasn't as completely energetic and carefree as Ponyo was. But it was still as technically impressive and engaging all the way through in its unique setting that it was in this film. I think I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, and I'm going to see where the rest of you guys
On
go.
a separate note, I also wanted to mention really quickly, another thing I really like about Studio Ghibli films is that every single film is set in a different place. And unlike your Animediate, where it's either a high school or a whatever,
Fantasy world
yeah, fantasy
with an overpowered main
well,
guy.
I mean, Fantasy World, I mean,
And
fair
pet
enough, that's really broad, but you got Spirited Away set in like a town that's just popular,
an
organised by
iron-forged
spirits.
town
Yeah, exactly.
in a mythical forest.
Yeah, Princess Mononoke, yeah, exactly, there you go. And this is somewhere...
Everything was
as well, so
fine
it's
until
nice.
the Fire Nation attacked.
Yeah, God.
So it's really refreshing in that respect to see something really quite new every
Yeah,
time that you
just-
watch a Studio Ghibli film.
the mystery of where the black door leads, and he just dives into an abyss, and it's like, where is this? You know, is this hell? And I think here the director of the film,
The M-boy.
the main fucking guy, is always good at both not being pretentious and also doing filmmaking better than everyone else easily, and also conveying a message every time. And this one, it shows, like, I honestly didn't expect. Most of what I've heard of him is he almost sounds like anti-technology from like Princess Mononoke, and this one to show like a like sort of steampunk setting was interesting. But then he uses it to tell this sort of World War II inspired like anti-war story about the power of love as well, which is always a great theme.
Yeah. Huey Lewis knew it. Yeah.
You can feel it coming in the air tonight. So, Jono and or Harry, your numbers. Keep in mind these will be final forever.
I don't know who should go first. I mean, oddly enough, with stuff like Ponyo, I felt like I'd said everything very quickly, whereas I feel like I could do another hour talking about this film.
I know.
To be perfectly honest, there's a lot more here, and I like it a lot more than the other two films, which I've said about 5 times now. So you know it's going to be at least a 7 out of 10. But can it go beyond that? Can it go beyond a 7 out of 10?
It's up to you.
Can it really engage me on an emotional level? Unfortunately, it can't.
Oh.
It's going to be pretty much the highest 7 I'd give.
Harry, you don't have the spirit for
Exactly.
this.
If I had a spirit, it would be an 8. But no, I'm sorry.
You just sold your heart to that
Don't.
demon.
It's a very high 7, which is still a very. It's just, I prefer the
7.
star system. That's 4 stars. That's pretty damn good.
I mean, that's 2 better than you've given the most recent things. So I'll take it. I've
When-
broken the trend.
I promise you, when we watch Spirited Away, we're getting an 8 from him.
Grave of the Fireflies is a 9. Just saying. So I
Is it
don't.
really a 9?
Yeah. So I don't dislike Studio Ghibli or anime.
Yeah.
Or
So,
Miyazaki.
Well, mine's like yeah.
right. So similar to, I think I'm in a similar place to Harry with this one. With the, I don't know. Yeah, it is good, but I think it is lacking something more at an emotional level. I didn't connect with this one as much as I have other ones, and again, I think that means it's a high 7, but not quite an 8. It's difficult to know what to say about it, really, and you've basically said all the things I would.
They're all
Billy Crystal's fucking good.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the best thing about it.
Mhm.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, I mean, they're all good. They're all picked really, really, really well. I'm not sure who does Sophie, young and old. So I'll have to check that out. I
It's
think
2
she's
different
quite
people,
well as well.
obviously.
Oh,
No, it's obviously the same person.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's the same
Do you think
person
so?
sounding like a 90-year-old woman.
They just smoked like 80 cigarettes before this.
That's why I don't want to criticise like the voice acting, or like
yeah, I don't know.
I'll praise it. But I'm not going to criticise it because like I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. You know
Yeah.
that maybe it
I
works
think I'm
better.
just too used to the Japanese when I see anime.
Mhm.
Tony,
It's hard to break the familiarity, and that's totally a personal
it's a shame
thing.
your rating can never change. That's all I'm saying.
How likely do you think it is that it could change?
I mean, it could change tomorrow, Ethan. If only I had another day to think it over.
This is the problem with doing it straight after watching.
Well, no, I think it is also good to get first impressions, because there is something to be said about, say, being the only person who likes something and then all your friends turning around the next day and being like, what are you going on about? I always loved Blade Runner 2049.
Can I just say that I liked that from the beginning too?
Just saying, I just
but we all knew you weren't set on that. You just wanted to fit in, didn't you?
well, from the beginning, I mean, it went from an 8 to a 9, so it's not like it went from a 4 to a 9. Anyway, like you say, it's great to have like first impressions of something.
Yeah,
unfortunately, I don't think any of us can give our first impressions of The Incredibles, which is a film that came out in 2004. I don't know about you, but Finding Nemo in 2003 was the first film I ever went to see. I mean, I've seen pretty much all the Pixar films that came out, from Toy Story to
The Good Dinosaur?
God, probably Cars 2. That's when I jumped off for a bit, and then I saw Inside Out. I pretty much saw all of them. It's part of my upbringing. I loved it, and I love The Incredibles so much. What do you guys think about The Incredibles? Tony, why did you pick The Incredibles?
It's a quintessential childhood film because a lot of the kids' films I've picked so far have been me being an adult, technically. God, that's weird to say. Going back and sort of just watching kids' films, while this is one... Like, in a way, Silent Running was more of a kids' film than, say, Ponyo or Howl's Moving Castle was, because I had seen it as a kid, and I think nostalgia is such a critical element of a film like this, because...
But it's good. It's not just nostalgia.
I know. Obviously, you don't just review things based on rose-tinted glasses, otherwise you hate The Last Jedi. Where was I? But so many moments of this have stuck with me, and like they're all the meme moments that everyone knows and loves. You know, the "Where's my super suit?" and "What are you waiting for?" or something incredible, I guess. And it's stuck with me in that sense. It's probably one of the earliest films I've seen, apart from say Shrek, which terrified me as like a 2-year-old.
Terrify you more now.
Yeah, obviously. It's a big ogre, Harry. But this, it has its unique... I want to say it's a comic book aesthetic, but I feel like it does it in its own way. Like, the fact that each of the characters have such a clearly defined silhouette that is emphasized in the stylized intros and outros shows that it's thought a lot about its inspiration, about how it looks. And it looks great. It's held up really well. I expected it to look a lot worse than it did, and it has some incredible set and animation moments. The bit where Elastigirl is in the hallway fight, you know, I had completely forgotten pretty much everything about that because, I don't know, 4-year-old me had like a sieve for a memory. And watching it for the first time, I was like, that's really inventive. It's taken the idea of superheroes like as a random power and thought it out in lots of interesting ways. Lots of interesting ways, and the first one to do it in this way, like watching this, I'm thinking, God, this reminds me of My Hero Academia, which is a show where people get like magical superpowers out of nowhere based on their bloodline or whatever. And like, hang on, this inspired that. And both of those draw from like the comic book era,
the golden era,
yeah,
of the 60s.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I feel like everything since then has just taken that idea and done it better, even though I haven't really experienced that firsthand. Apart from ice cream, the best X-Men mutant, the power to turn into any flavour of ice cream. But this has like the classic superhero strengths that it bases its characters around. And I heard the director, I won't say it's the director, someone talk about how the superpowers reflect everything about the sort of idea of family roles that they're based around. Like, say, the father is strong and all that, and the mother is flexible because, you know, mothers have to do a whole bunch of shit, like cleaning.
But that's not.
I'd
say that
out of nowhere.
I'd say that it doesn't. It doesn't follow stereotypes. It kind of challenges stereotypes.
I love how at the beginning it sets up this like back and forth of the idea of wanting to go back to embracing that superhero world, and also having I just wish I could live a simple life, that is then flipped like 15 years later of Mr. Incredible's like, I just want the world to just stay saved, which is a great line. It has so much about it, about like making the idea of job of superhero seem so real, because it's always the villain only has to destroy the world once, hero has to save it every time, you know. And it's the leave saving the world to the men. I don't think so. So good, so stylish.
Yeah, speaking of the style, like early on, I love you've got that great kind of like opening sequence, which is still holds up and it's still amazing, and it kind of it looks like a kind of old TV set, and like a comic book, and it kind of has the color palette of those kind of golden age of comics, you know, like really kind of like oranges and like turquoise.
Yeah.
The color scheme's great, and then you cut to pretty much the first hour of the film, which is completely all grey and all dim, and then it flips, and suddenly you've got these bold primary colours in the suits, and it's great.
The montage scene, which of Mr. Incredible training after he gets back into his life of moonlight superheroing, is so good because of the idea of like, how would someone with super strength actually work out? You know, they couldn't bench 15 kilograms. You know, be like, oh, so hard. Practical Viren's arms already. And it's him like lifting all the trains and like heavy equipment at like a railroad site, and it shows that it's just thought out its premise really well. And watching back, it's incredibly consistent in the way it like foreshadows later elements. Like you pay attention and you'll hear like gazer beam come up in certain ways, and it's pretty fucking good. It's what do you guys think about the film? What are you guys mulling over?
You go first, mate.
Well, it's a good film. It's got some good comedic moments in, and it's very watchable for both children and adults.
Definitely. Even though, as watching this, we were like, how's this a you?
Yeah, it works on so many levels. Like, and most of them I kind of got as a kid, but there's definitely like the affair stuff. I just completely went over my head as a kid. Also, the guy trying to kill himself. By jumping off the boat.
Really dark. Those characters are in danger.
See, I don't.
Evening is in danger.
I don't know if I watched this when I was young. I feel I definitely had at some point, and then mostly forgotten about it. Watched it reasonably recently because it was on TV, and then watched it today. So my most recent memories of it are from watching it as an adult, rather than I say adult still.
Yeah,
but more adult than child. So I picked up on those things.
Yeah, I think. Looking back at it now, there's definitely a lot more to pick out. Where have we got with this?
I don't know, because like I really loved it. I was obsessed with it as a kid, you know. And I haven't watched it for about like maybe like 8 or 9 years, and like before then I loved it. And then when I was kind of just going on IMDb and scoring things, I thought, you know, like, oh, it's good, it's very good. It's not Pixar's best. And then coming back to it today, I'm actually even more impressed with it. And that I don't think that's entirely down to nostalgia. That's me just going, this is so much fun. It's funny as hell, and it works on like tons of levels. You know, as a fan of like comic books and like superhero stuff, it's great. You know, it even makes like subtle references to like other pastiches of superheroes, like the capes thing as a joke from Watchmen. I mean, that entire character of Edna Mode is incredible.
Yeah, looking at the cover, I see the family of Incredibles, Frozone and Edna, and I think both of those are such. Both of those two editions outside the 5-man main cast of I don't know why I said that. The two editions are
really
just
sexist, don't
Just break out the stereotypes.
anti-Welsh. I'm just devolving over time.
I mean, in fairness to Tony, they all have a like Mr. Incredible suit. Even Elastigirl, and that's just kind of...
Yeah, that's
true. I mean, they all have the same theme.
They're adopting the family name.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll allow it.
Would you rather have P for Pa, you know? Oh, it's Incredibles.
Yeah, those characters are great additions because they keep up the energy like of the away scenes, right? Because it goes to the tropical island, and cutting back to Elastigirl with Edna Mode. I actually don't know if that's her full name or if she says Edna Mode, as in go into Edna mode,
and guest
to her fucking computer. That always confused me, and that's one of those things.
I think her name's Edna Mode.
Oh, Edna Mode.
Okay. And those characters are incredibly strong in the early bits of the film that you'd think like, oh, before it brings back all the superhero stuff, it'd just be boring, right? It's like, no, all the great supporting cast, you know, Frozone, Edna Mode, Tony,
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you haven't even mentioned Syndrome there.
Syndrome. Oh my god, Buddy and Bon Voyage at the beginning, man. Bon Voyage. Whatever happened to him?
I love all this shit here. It's like, even when the newspapers are going, this is a really quick, like, Cyclops is pervert, you know? It's like, it's just like...
There's X-ray vision.
Yeah,
is peeping Tom.
That's the one. I was going with that.
Yeah, incredibly realistic how it thinks of this fall of superheroes in a grounded way of like Mr. Incredible's, breaks out, punches his boss through a wall. How does he not die? How does he not get in jail for that? I don't know.
Because it's a kid's film.
Yeah, but also like millions of people die. So millions.
This is like Watchmen for kids in a certain way.
It's the grounded line of like, that was thousands in taxpayers' dollars. Like, if you're paying attention to it, like, it actually makes effort to make itself seem real, even though it's a film about people with superheroes in like a cohesive way.
Ethan?
Yeah, it's quite a good film. It's pretty fun. 9 out of 10. So yeah, I think this is the part of the podcast where I don't really have much more to say. I think I do agree with you. It is very, very watchable. When we were watching it earlier, time just seemed to go straight past, and it feels like it's over before it's even begun. That's how good it is.
Yeah, very well paced is definitely.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's quick to get there, but then also like it takes like probably an hour before they even get the rest of the family get on the plane. Let alone like are on the island. I don't know how that opening goes so quick. Perhaps it's because the opening montage is like 10 minutes.
Yeah. And constantly while I was watching it, I was reminded of things that I could be watching instead of this, and thinking, God, I'm so glad I'm watching The Incredibles instead of that. Get reminded of Fantastic Four with all of their superpowers being there. I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not watching Rise of the Silver Surfer right now. And then that opening of the different superheroes in the past and kind of what happened to them and the fall of superheroes, again, reminds me a lot of Watchmen. I'm like, it's great that I'm not watching Watchmen right now. And yeah,
watching the Watchmen.
Yeah, no. And yeah, I'm just a bit. Yeah, I don't really have any more to say to that. I'm afraid.
Earlier, Tony, you were talking about how sometimes you kick yourself and you don't mention something.
Yeah.
The music, man. The music of this film is so good. It's just all the trumpets, you know. It's good.
Yeah. Gets me to like jazz, and nothing really.
It's so fantastic, and especially my favourite track, probably, even though it's not the main theme, which is like the cop out because it's so fucking iconic. The moment where Mr. Incredible finds the computer and sees the all the superheroes that died, and just the kind of like slowly building suspenseful music before he kind of gets trapped and caught. Yeah. I mean,
that's that scene where he has all those plastic balls thrown at him.
Yeah,
it's like, it's terrifying, man.
Yeah, I remember so much about this, like from being a kid. You know, just like so many of these like really like iconic moments.
Yeah, even like the dumb shit like sticks out to me though in my memory of it. Like I remember like the mimosas he gets when he's on the plane with like the little prawns in them, and I remember when he goes into his home late at night and he picks up a cake and he just like. He like is tiny in his massive hand, and he's just like, very well animated, definitely
acted as well. I mean, the voice cast is brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking while watching it, God, Holly Hunter really does have a very recognisable voice. You notice her instantly when you hear her speak.
Yeah. She's so brilliant.
She's like Jodie Foster, but just less annoying. Really, it's quite good.
She's really brilliant. And Samuel Jackson obviously providing the comedic voice.
It's the kind of film that you watch and you think, God, I mean, they must have been acting out the scene while they were talking to actually get it to sound like, I'm feeling pain, or I'm actually worried.
Because the family dynamic, which is like we haven't really mentioned. We've been talking more about the superhero, which is kind of like the surface level. Definitely, like the heart of the film is the family dynamic.
I mean, they act like people their age, don't they? I mean, they're genuinely kids. It's actually quite nice to see people.
They're not annoying either.
No, they're very
easily. Dash could very easily have been an annoying character.
Yeah, I feel like if he was like what's the story? Studio that did Emoji Movie,
Sony. They're Sony.
I feel like
or DreamWorks.
Dash as an idea done by them would have been so shit annoying and like on your nerves, hyper energetic. But he's just so likable, and just the scene where Incredible fucking sake. Mr.
It's called
Incredible.
Hayao Miyazaki, Tony.
Can't pronounce it right.
Incredibles.
Bon voyage. Incredible man.
Bomb voyage. 'Cause he uses bombs.
Bon voyage.
9 out of 10.
That's the best thing of going back to old films. We pick things out where he's just like talking to his son, and he's just like, "How fast were you going?" He's like, so like as he's knifing his plate faster and faster. It's like, you must have been booking it. It's like,
Oh,
good
the
energy.
race at the end, man. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
The way the
Yes.
film just builds.
Yes.
It's
Go a
just,
bit faster. No, slow down.
the guy
The
just,
close.
just the close up the guy looking at them.
Yeah, he's
and
like-
they're telling him to slow down.
Yeah, and just the incredible.
Incredible.
I can't use that word anymore. The good bit, the back and forth of "we'll get there when we get there." If are we get there? Are we there yet? It's always like a fucking thing that you
Just-
say on family road trips.
Yeah, the kind of the beats of just them being a family. It just works so well, and the whole like even the stuff like is he having an affair? I mean, it kind of, but instead of having an affair, it's like he's using his superpowers again. Kind of,
And it feels like
just go bowling.
it feels like the characters actually do things that, I mean, similarly to what we were just talking about earlier, it feels like they're actually doing things that, you know, a child would do in their sort of situation with their powers. The scene where he's put the pin underneath the guy at the principal's office, and just the fact that they take out time of the film to show us this scene where Dash is just a kid is like, it just goes a long way, I think, in developing the character.
I think
that we
that's
care
how
about.
it helps us make him likable immediately. Is
Yeah,
that in that
yeah.
room
He's
he's
just a little
not
prankster,
the
isn't he?
insane one.
Yeah.
It's this teacher. You're like, okay, the teacher is wrong. The kid is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though the kid obviously did it, because we know his name's Dash. By the way, I want to point that out, that they were trying to hide people's powers and they named their son Dash.
it was
actually got
Dash is a shortened
then
version
you-
of something else.
then
They say his full name.
Dashnell.
Dashery?
I'm not.
Haberdashery.
Yeah, Haberdashery. They just take the middle part of that name and make him that.
Yeah, their names are based around their superpower. So you've got Ultraviolet,
Yeah.
and then the other
fuck,
thing.
I'd not even picked up on that.
Yeah,
Oh,
the other
Jesus.
interesting
That was
thing.
your Bon Voyage memory.
Yeah, I think so.
The other amusing thing that I read about it is Mr. Incredible's suit is blue, Elastigirl's suit is red, and their firstborn child is violet.
Oh, that's quite.
Oh, that is really cool.
That is.
I mean, you've already mentioned it, but their powers just kind of represent, like, Dash is like a kid who's like, obviously he's frantic,
Hyperergenic.
he's fast. You know, Violet literally wants to disappear.
Yeah,
you know,
being all shy and
flexibility,
stuff.
and like him being powerful and like feeling like he's powerful, and he's like suffering this like what is a midlife crisis. You know,
And the baby is a fucking baby.
The baby shows untapped potential. Jim.
Yeah.
Have
That
you-
it-
the
have
baby
you
just
know?
has
yeah.
every power, which I really
Jack
like.
of all trades.
Oh, that's
Master of.
Bon Voyage.
Oh,
God.
that's so good.
Yeah.
There's so many. We could talk about this.
You can
forever.
tell we've had like 7 years to mull this film over.
You can tell that I've read interesting trivia stuff about this film.
It's such a good film.
I know.
It just is. You know, I feel like I prefer it now. I'm older, even than I did as a kid, which is it's saying something for them. I mean, I know Ethan likes to take a few jabs at Pixar now and again, but I definitely feel like their run from Toy Story 2 to
Cars.
Yeah, no, forget Cars. drop Cars in this to Toy Story 3 is pretty much like
No,
every film is at least an 8 or a high 8.
I completely agree with you. I feel like you know how every MCU film is basically just enough to be above average, but it's not quite good.
Oh no, everyone's like a 7 out of 10, like a middling 7.
I disagree with you. But anyway, I mean, they're all fairly consistent. This is the same thing, but they're consistently like 8s or 9s.
But they're also
out of 10s.
completely like varied and different.
Yeah, they are. They're all different films.
And do you know when they get worse? When Disney take the reins.
Yeah, whenabouts is that? Is that Good Dinosaur?
Yeah, well, Disney
That's
stopped.
how I said it. Because I love, and I pretty much saw everything, but pre-Good Dinosaur, and then after that I kind of just jumped in and out when I felt like
They
it.
start stealing their
Incredibles.
stuff. It's really annoying. So
Incredible.
Disney animation films get better and Pixar get worse. Hence Moana, which is good.
Oh, right. Incredibles is good, but it's no The Croods.
Oh my god.
Oh.
I think about the Croods on a daily basis, Tony.
That was Brendan Fraser before he went underground. Oh no, that was Brendan Fraser while he was underground.
Right.
Just kind of disappeared
Anything
from the
else to
face of
add to The
earth for a while.
Incredibles? Has anyone got any more?
I didn't really connect with Inside Out as much as you did. That's sort of with The Incredibles.
Oh yeah, I don't like it as much as this, but it's good fun.
I couldn't connect with Bob Parr because he kills people and just makes it difficult
Does
to
he
like
kill
his
anyone?
character.
I mean, he does.
The only one that kills anyone is Dash.
I mean, the fact that people like are involved in big explosions, you can imply that people die, but it's not like anyone gets their fucking neck snapped or anything.
He almost does.
Oh yeah!
It's like, oh snap!
Oh man, it's quite dark when you think about it.
It's
and
definitely not
almost,
you.
I almost appreciate that in some way. The fact that it isn't afraid to say like, hey, you know, Saturday morning cartoons. This is not like that. You know, we're on a fucking serious level here.
But it is. I love them. I love the henchmen.
The henchmen.
They're so
Take a
evil.
shot every time someone runs away.
They're
That's such a good
so
line in the
evil, man.
background.
It's great.
This
The costume design as well.
Clapping as the city is being destroyed.
Also, you say he's a psychopath, and you're right. Do you remember the part in the film where there's those 3 people? They're also his crew members. He just decides to just kill them.
Will this
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sense to the people listening?
Jono, you should have asked that on the first podcast we ever did, and the answer was no.
God, Ethan was our only audience member, and now we've lost him.
Hello to Marcus.
Barbie, if you dislike this video.
I was like a hardcore Mediate fan. I bought all of your merchandise, everything. I got a poster on all the Mediate bros. I got your symbol and everything.
And you tried to get in our car and like, oh, can I join? And we were like, buddy, I work alone.
We work alone.
Yeah.
And then you came back and you kept freezing us.
Also
You
wreak havoc
monologued.
on the world. Yeah.
0 point energy.
I really like the design of. I can never remember. Is it the
Yeah.
Omnipod?
The Omnidroid.
The Omnidroid. It's
Yeah.
got such a good design, and
Yeah.
I it's just the way it kind of varies in its attacks, and the fact that I really like. It doesn't stand out as much as it did when I was young, and I was like, but when you think the film's over and then suddenly he's at the house,
Yeah.
that's great. I really like that. It's obviously it's a lot less. For some reason, when you're a kid, you remember everything from being like way longer.
Kids get all the good shit, man. Why can't they have kids films but for adults?
Do you remember when we were a fan of the prequels? And that all changed when we realised what made films good.
I've probably seen The Incredibles on a par with The Phantom Menace, and I've seen The Phantom Menace a lot of times.
Why?
Because I just used to watch.
Is it because you used to think it was genuinely good,
No.
just because you watch it?
No,
'cause you
it's
love
because I
how bad it
really
is?
like Star Wars, and I was for some reason when I was a kid, the only I was like I have to watch if I want to watch a Star Wars film, I have to watch them all in order. So I'd always watch The Phantom Menace, and I'd just stop because I'd be like, I want to get to the good ones. But yeah, we'll talk about Star Wars another time.
Maybe. Yeah. The Omnidroid, as you were talking about, it's great because it's like this. It's set up as like almost another sort of antagonistic force that keeps coming back at key moments. It's what gets Mr. Incredible out of his midlife sort of shell of a job. That actually he was fired by then, so you know, oh well.
Mhm.
It's very convenient. But then he goes away, and the first way he beats it by just sort of doing that crab underneath its turret, and then at the end, something that's always struck with me, it felt very natural, the way Mr. Incredible's always, like the way that he discovered that even though he tells you it's the only thing strong enough to pierce it is itself, it felt like as you were watching it, even if you were a kid, you're like, yeah, that makes sense, I remember that. And it's how he beats it at the end.
What amuses me is how many times they point out the remote controls the droids. Just,
Yeah.
Remote controls the droids. And then there's even a bit much later where Frozone's going, the remote for what?
I think that is good.
Yeah, I mean, like that actual like set piece is brilliant. Like.
Mhm.
As I keep going on about the levels, like you can just enjoy this, like for the action alone. I mean, like some of the animations, like some of the environments don't look as good, but like the action itself is still great. And that dash chase, I think, is still
I
brilliant as
think
well.
But-
Dash running on water has to be such a cool like idea as well as in execution. So good.
Oh,
But,
yeah, that's another thing. I was sorry, Johnny, just 1 second. I was talking about how while watching this, it reminded me of things I rather wouldn't be watching. It's the same for playing. That Max Speed section across the walls is running way version. I'm like, God, playing that game right now.
It's got a lot of video game beats, which helps if you played the video game, which was fucking hard, by the way.
No,
Yeah.
I was. I said I played
It
on
was
PC,
so
I get
hard.
past level 2.
Oh my god.
Those dash mark fuck's sake. Those dash mark speed sections were fucking.
That's why I've seen the little
Bad.
video where like Dash gets and Violet like encounter the dude. I've seen like little 5-second clips of this film hundreds of times just from how hard that game is. God damn it. Anyway, John, what were you gonna say?
Oh, well, I was gonna say you mentioned its set pieces and being good, but are set pieces alone enough to take a film to the final?
So there's a little topical joke there for you, even though this is coming out ages away.
Just a little rock paper scissors joke for you.
Right. Should we score it right out of 10? I think me and Ethan have already scored it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not giving it a 9, by the way.
Oh, damn it.
No, sorry.
Well, I am. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, because fuck you.
Ethan, this is a superhero film. You know what else is a superhero film?
What's that?
The MCU. What do you think this does?
No, it's not.
That's what I said. It's a group of superheroes.
I'm not with it today.
But
What do you
that's
think-
that's like me
as
saying.
a broad.
That's like me saying. What was it I said about getting joked?
What?
What was it about?
Ethan has said the phrase "I'm the Joker, I don't get joked" in response to an insult or something. It's a great defense. It's impenetrable, apart from anything but itself.
I am unfuckable.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think this does differently, or are your problems with the superhero film, the MCU, not the fact that it's a superhero film?
Well, my problems with the MCU, man. I'll get onto that when we do a full podcast about it, I'm actually worried for that, because I feel like all my problems with the MCU will just come out in Iron Man, and then I'll just have to copy and paste that same argument for everything. What does it do differently? Well, what it does differently is I feel, and this is a generalisation, because I know that MCU films, some of them have done this, like Age of Ultron. I feel like in this film, there are things that are done that aren't completely pertinent to, advancing the narrative and getting it to move forward. And sometimes they take out time, to develop the characters. There's the odd scene in here and there which is just, look at my powers. There are other things I can do, and I feel like it just builds up the character well. Whether and yeah, like I said, it's not every film, it's not every MCU film, but too many of them are just we're going to get the plot running as fast as we can. We're just going to keep it going non-stop. And don't get me wrong, it's good hour and a half, 2 hour entertainment and action stuff like that. But I just want more from those films, and I don't feel like I get them. So
If The Incredibles was an MCU film, getting the thing that controls the robot would be like, they'd take 4 films to establish it, and then it would pay off in the 5th.
yeah.
God, I'd love a Frozone solo film though.
He's just the Silver Surfer, man. I can't believe it. I only just realised that he's just the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
So, what would you score it then, Ethan? Out of 10.
I'm gonna give it an out of 10, but an
What
8 out of
number
10.
was that?
Sorry, did I say
I
an
couldn't-
hour out of 10? I think I did, so I don't know what I said. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10, and I might change that because I know that we can come back and I know
What?
What are you talking about?
Huh?
Should I play
Come out of nowhere.
We're just learning this information,
that.
All our ratings appear on the screen with the score, deceased.
Yeah.
Yeah, that back and forth where it's like some of them are like beat one version, but they all get beaten by the second iteration.
Oh, I really such a what a film. I mean, I was going to give it an 8, but it's just too good.
Yeah.
Banger.
I was gonna give it an 8 out of 10, but sorry, I was gonna give it a 9 out of 10, but then you gave House Moving Castle a 7, and I was like, I don't like you.
Harry didn't pick this film.
I know.
You have to get back at me for fucking Redline and Ponyo.
I know, but I don't mind. I thought Redline was all right, and Ponyo's actually okay as well.
You
It's
hate
not-
those films. Give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, no, 8 out of 10.
No,
I might
you
change.
Neither did I. 5's not hating something. The
I'm
only,
kidding.
I've hated two things in the main series of this podcast. Sonic 06 and V for Vendetta.
Oh, I'm going to clarify those for us.
Okay. Well, not hated, but they've
Remember
been
that
below.
episode so well.
They've been below a 5.
Remember how well I argued my points though against V for
Yeah.
Vendetta. I counted all of your problems.
Oh yeah, I mean, how could I forget?
Mm.
I remember reminiscing about the pancake scene and the when he comes out of the fire. I mean, that's awesome.
Johnny and Tony. I think Johnny, you go next, and Tony can finish it up. But
Alright, so it's going to be a similar level to with Howl's Moving Castle. I don't know if it's a high 7 or low 8. I think I'm leaning towards high 7.
Oh, thank you.
Why is your...
Because I wanted to give it an 8 if he gave Howl's Moving Castle a 7,
No,
so as
fair
low as
enough.
possible is what I wanted him to give us.
Yeah, I mean, it's good and it's funny, but
Sorry, man.
I don't know. Possibly.
You can always change it. You can always change it.
Can't wait till after this podcast where like we won't be able to do that anymore.
But yeah, I just sort of there were moments where I sort of drifted away from it. I mean, when I said I watched it recently, I think it must be like 2 years or 3 years ago. It's not recent,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Although I say it's watchable, I think I've watched it now, and that's probably enough.
Fair enough. I mean,
So-
I think it's one of those films I could just watch tomorrow and I'd be fine with that. It's just
Could you watch it in 360 though? That's the question. I mean, that's the real challenge.
I mean, I think we'll actually be doing that film eventually.
Yeah, we
really
will.
hope we
I'm
will.
looking forward to it.
So I guess it comes down to me as the last one. This one, honestly, I think this episode was interesting because it does set up that anime versus sort of 3D animation. I want to say debate, but it's more of just a comparison. They're both good,
Yeah.
and these are both strong examples from both mediums. And honestly, I thought I might have fallen down on the anime side of the fence more, knowing my own track record. But going to this, I think it tells its story like in an incredibly well paced way, and I think its style, like, because it's almost worse to say that because I know there are more Hayao Miyazaki films, I don't feel as compelled to like Howl's Moving Castle specifically.
Yeah, Brad Bird's in like 2 animated films.
Yeah.
What's the second one?
We'll see one day.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Incredibles 2?
well, this feels like its own like.
yeah.
Was it even him? Its own like more unique than thing of just an interpretation of superheroes in an interesting way. It's hard to compare them, but because they're both so technically excellent in ways that I will be shit at describing because I just saw them today. But oh well. And it really just comes down to personal enjoyment and nostalgia for me to give Incredibles 9 out of 10.
Yes. What a film.
Yeah, what a good double bill. What a good episode.
I think this has probably been consistently one of the best we've done. I mean, 2010 was pretty great.
All right. Well, have you got the scores all written down? Can you tell us if it's better than 2000?
All I want to say is, you know, with our scores, I feel like they're very skewed because obviously, you know, in the early episodes, Tony just gives them 10s. You know, it's hard to give the correct scores. Maybe we'll give the correct scores in next month's podcast.
But yes, at the moment, The Incredibles did beat Howl's Moving Castle.
But that could
By
that
how
could
many
work.
points?
2.
Oh, okay.
That could
Also,
work.
I was talking about 2010 rather than as in
Yeah.
2004 in total. Beat
It's
2004.
it's not as high as 2010 was.
But 2010 could get lower.
Yes.
It will get lower.
Will we
I know
lower
that for a
Portal?
fact.
All the way down.
He's getting a 6 from
Kidding.
me.
I'm kidding.
I wouldn't be surprised if Johnny just it's like actually Portal 2. It was a 2.
Portal 2.
I only liked Wheatley.
The design of Portal 2 actually does remind me of some of like the sort of lab design and like all the technology in Incredibles.
You're doing like a Freudian, like why I like Portal 2 now. You're just going back through my childhood and being like, this is why you like the thing that you like.
Like there's like the screen shakes and you realise that this is actually me and Jono, or no, you don't like To the Moon. Me and Ethan are like scientists going into Harry's memory to make it change because on his dying deathbed he was like, I wish I had liked Valhalla. My last wish.
What would be amazing is if you actually forget it. I'll tell you after the podcast is over.
But yeah,
I want to keep it like this.
We'll never know Barnaby and Marcus.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind sounds like To the Moon, but done good.
It's
It's To the Moon, but done really creatively.
yeah, it's very unconventional. It's a great script, and the direction's good as well. It's
Yeah.
it's good. It's very good.
It has like
It's
a
not
really
it's incredible.
the way it's filmed. It kind of has quite a close and intimate feel to it, so it is easy to get into it quite quickly. And the dialogue just
I feel like I
feels like it's
want to
really
see it again
naturalistic.
because it's so hard to follow at times because it's just all over the place.
It is,
No,
and
no.
not in a bad way.
Oh no, not at all. Anyway,
You know what's been all over the place? This podcast.
Oh,
Which
I-
is near
Well,
the
it's
air.
been
mice.
consistently
Can I press the
liked.
stop button with my nose?
No.
to be fair, I feel like it's been quite good. I mean, I prefer giving like first opinions. I feel like apart from when you do games, because games fucking like no, you can't just finish a game and then start talking about it.
Well, Ethan's played 20 minutes of VA 11 Hall A. That means he just give it a 7.
No, I know everything I need to know about it. Yeah.
We'll see
I've talked to
you
those characters.
in Retcon.
Is there anything else we need to do?
Well, I guess we could all
We-
together go da 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 da.
Da, 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 da.
We can say what 2003 is going to be.
Yeah, but we're doing Retcon next, so fuck
Yeah.
it. Fuck it.